guest here in our studio. Ek second, man. Before introducing the guest, I would say in English now. I just wanted, being a radio program, it is our responsibility. We just spoke about election in India, and of course, once you vote, you look at who is representing us and who is the candidate. Look at the track record, and I request every resident of Mississauga, you must go out and you must go out to vote. अपना वोट का इस्तेमाल ज़रूर कीजिएगा. मैंने कल भी एक वीडियो शेयर की थी, एंड दैट वाज ब्रैम्पटन के गो स्टेशन की, कि हम अपने राइट्स की तो बात करते ही करते हैं, मगर हम ड्यूटीज़ की बात नहीं करते. ऑफ कोर्स बीइंग अ सिटीज़न, इट्स नॉट गुड टू कंप्लेन. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल ये देखिए, दिस इज़ व्हाट हैपेंड इन ब्रैम्पटन. गो ट्रेन पे एक इवेंट हुआ है, सुना है, बहुत बड़ा एक फ़नकार था जिसकी परफॉर्मेंस थी, और उसके बाद ये गो स्टेशन स्टील्स एंड ब्रैमली के ऊपर है. दिस इज़ व्हाट द मॉर्निंग वॉज, एंड ऑनेस्ट टू गॉड यहाँ जाके मुझे ख़ुद भी शर्मिंदगी हुई कि एक तो ये कि ब्रैम्पटन में आपको पता ही है कि बहुत सारी विजिबल कम्युनिटी है, विजिबल मतलब कलर्ड स्किन के लोग हम हैं, और इवेंट भी हमारा अपना था, मगर अटेंड किसने किया फेस्टिवल को? ये जो फंक्शन था, ये फूड फेयर था, किसने अटेंड किया था? रेजिडेंट्स ने अटेंड किया था ना. मगर उसके बाद जो सूरत हाल थी, आप यकीन कीजिएगा, आई वॉज देयर इन द मॉर्निंग. अनबिलीवेबल लगता था जैसे पता नहीं कोई तूफ़ान यहाँ से गुज़र के गया है, जितना गंद यहाँ दिखने को मिला. इट वॉज़ एन इंसल्ट, एब्सोल्यूट इंसल्ट थी. तो हम ड्यूटीज़ की बात करते हैं, मगर हम राइट्स की बात करते हैं, मगर हम ऑब्लिगेशंस और ड्यूटीज़ की बात क्यों नहीं करते? तो इट इज़ we are obligated to vote. We have our duty to go out to vote. You are lucky enough, those who can vote. So today we have one of the candidate here. We will try to make you meet with all these candidates. He is councillor at the moment. Yes, my
Councillor Alvin Tedjo.
Alvin
Tedjo, right?
Yeah, Tedjo. Yeah, you got it.
Tedjo?
Yeah,
Hey.
Tedjo. You're good.
Okay.
Thank you very
Councillor
kindly,
Alvin,
Tedjo.
Whoever arranged, I didn't arrange this interview, but whoever arranged this interview, thank you so much for coming here.
No, thanks to Shazia, of course, our team arranged it.
They must
Yes.
have told you that the interview is going to be in Urdu, right?
Yep. Yeah. No, in English. I speak some other language, but I don't speak Urdu.
This is
sorry.
Urdu program.
Yes.
No, the woman must have told you that the one who is going to interview, she doesn't know English at all.
Oh no.
Okay,
No.
anyways, Mississauga is a very diverse place.
Yes,
all
yes.
kind of people
Yeah.
live there, and very many immigrants live there. And I think Canada belongs to the Aboriginals, but everybody else is immigrant here.
Of course.
There are some people living for 50 plus years, 60 years, and others. Now, Alvin, you are a councillor. How long you are in the council?
I was elected 2 years ago in 2022.
This
Yeah,
is
just
your
last
first
election.
term.
That's right. Yeah.
This is your first term.
That's right.
How long you been living in Mississauga?
I'm 40, and I moved here when I was 4 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
So
that's
you
6 years.
Yeah.
so you lived all your life
Yeah,
here in
almost my whole life in
Mississauga.
Mississauga.
Now, what do you think once you put your nomination? It's one of the reason is we requested you to come on the channel is because it's an ethnic channel, and we want all our residents to know about the candidates.
Yeah.
What made you? I understand that you are a councillor for the last 2 years. What made you to put yourself as one of the candidate of the mayor? What changes do you expect to bring?
Yeah. So I love the city. Like I said, I've lived here almost my whole life. My parents came to Mississauga. They're immigrants. They moved from Indonesia, right, in the 1970s, and they saw this city as an opportunity for them to get an education, start a business, buy a home, and now they're seniors living in Mississauga, but they're retired, as so many seniors are, and they're struggling to make ends meet. How do they afford to live in their home with a fixed income, as so many seniors have? And I have 3 kids. My wife and I chose Mississauga for the same reasons. We thought it was a great place to raise a family and a place that we could buy a home. But I can't imagine right now a city of Mississauga where my 3 kids, who are 9, 11, and 13 years old, will be able to afford to live in Mississauga when they get older. My siblings, who are almost 10 years younger than me, still live with my parents because it's impossible for them to find affordable housing. So the city is one of the most expensive cities in Canada to live in, and it has one of the highest taxes. So what I want to do is I want to make this city more livable for families, multi-generationals, and for my kids and my parents to continue living here.
I think to be expansive is not only one of the reasons, because this is a difficult time of our age.
Yep.
And I'm a Brampton resident, and of course we pay more taxes. My main concern is this is something which is not only in Brampton, Mississauga and Ontario. It is in all Canada. What about the car thefts? What changes
absolutely.
can you bring? How can the
Yeah.
police department say they don't have so many police officers to
Yeah.
resolve the problem? So, and the city doesn't have that much money. What will you do to stop car theft?
Yeah. So Brampton taxes are the highest in the GTA. Mississauga is second, right after it. And safety is our third pillar, right? Affordability, housing, safety is the things that I've been talking about. In terms of car thefts, I've been working with Mayor Brown on this and at Regional Council to find ways that we can do more things to help people with. There's 3 levels of responsibility, and there's 3 places that we can help. One is personal. How do we help people protect their own property? We can help them with Faraday bags. We can give them more educational pieces in terms of, putting their car in their garage, help them with the types of tools that they can buy and putting clubs and things like that to protect their vehicles. But we can't put it all on individuals. The city has to help them with those materials and understanding what they should use. The region of Peel can do more. The police can do more. They've asked for more. They've asked for more police officers. They've asked for more civilians. They've gotten 135 new police officers in the last year. It was the largest budget increase that we've ever approved at the region of Peel for Peel Police. Now we need to make sure that they continue to have the tools available to them to make sure that they can patrol now, which they're starting to do this week. They're starting to patrol more. You're going to see more police officers on the street in Brampton and Mississauga to try and address some of the car thefts. But they also can't do it alone. Right? They arrest so many people every week who are doing car thefts. We recover 40% of all the vehicles that get stolen. But you know what happens to so many of those people that get arrested? They get released the next morning. The chief of police said, Chief Nish said, as soon as we arrested somebody, they were released on bail and they were given their tools back and they stole a car from the parking lot. So we need the federal government to step in as well and change the bylaw, change the bail reform rules so that we can keep them in jail longer while they're waiting so they don't commit more crimes. And we need some jurisdictional changes because there's intermodal hubs where you have cars going into shipping containers that are leaving the region of Peel that we can't inspect. We don't have jurisdiction to inspect them, and there's no scanners to inspect them either. But the federal government recently announced that they're going to try to work towards that and give us some scanners so that we can get those. Once we are able to recover more of the vehicles, like they do in the U.S., they scan over 45% of the containers that leave the country. We scan less than 1%. So that means the criminals and the gangs know that they can steal these cars and get away with it and ship it out and make lots of money. That's how we stop it.
This is not the only solution, and I think once you talk about number one, the police departments always complain that they don't have so many people. They are not. You said last time they were given the budget was very high for the police, but still they don't have so many people to the way more people are, new immigrants are coming, the way community is expanding, so they don't have that much staff available. What do you have in your mind? I understand Doug Ford said something great, that once a person is caught, must be given a punishment that he should not
be able to drive,
that's right, or he should not get into. But that also has a very many loopholes, whatever the punishment came last time. What do you think? How can you involve the youth? Because empty mind is a workshop of devil. What is the reason that these young people are more into the thefts? What tool do you have to keep them involved in constructive activities rather than getting into the thefts? This is not a solution that we provide tools to the people and ask them to put it in the garage. this is not the only solution.
No, you're right.
What do you have for
Yeah.
the people that they should not get into these criminal activities?
Yeah, we need to engage young people more and give them more opportunities in the city, right? So one of the things we need to do is make sure that there's enough employment opportunities. Give them options to go work in the city of Mississauga. Part of my plan on affordability is to lower small business property taxes by 15%. Right? Make it easier for small businesses to do business in the city of Mississauga. One of the reasons the city of Mississauga is so successful is that we have 100,000 businesses. Almost all of them small businesses. Yes, we have Fortune 500 companies. That's great. But the largest employer in the city are small businesses. So the more we can support small businesses, the more they can hire people to work for them. The more we can hire young people, the more we can keep them off the streets. We need to keep them busy, keep them occupied. We have a Saga Summer Pass in the summer for teenagers where they can access the fitness facility, they can work out, they can swim, and all of that is free. They just need to go and sign up. And we've expanded that program so that more people can sign up. Right? The more things that we can get youth engaged in, especially in our community centers, that's good. I'm trying to make it more affordable for families to start with kids 12 and under, to start them into our swimming and skating programs and saying, we want you to be able to do these for free as well. Because when we have open skate and open swims, let's get them inside and get them used to using our community centers and then the programming and activities that come associated with that.
Affordable housing, and affordable housing.
Yeah.
Okay, that's something we've been hearing about for the last 5 years.
Absolutely.
What do you have planned for affordable housing?
I have a lot of plans on affordable housing. We have the most comprehensive housing plan I think you'll ever see. It was endorsed by Jennifer Keesmaat from Toronto, who said this is the most detailed and comprehensive plan that we've had. And if anybody who's listening wants to check it out, go to alvintedjo.ca/housing, and then you can see our plans there. But I will definitely talk about this because I love talking about this. There are so many more things that the city can do. One, we need to make it easier to build. And we need to make it easier to build purpose-built rental, affordable housing, supportive housing, and shelters. In terms of what we have right now, we are building 32 major projects in the city of Mississauga. There's 32 cranes in the sky in Mississauga. One is purpose-built rental. Only one is rental. 31 condos.
Mm-hmm.
That means the entire approval process is geared and rigged towards supporting only the market condo housing market.
Mm-hmm.
That's not acceptable. We have to make a separate path. I've talked to all of them. I talked to all the associations and the builders and say, how can I help you build more market housing? How can I help you build more rental housing? And they're different games. They're saying, one is like playing golf and the other one's like playing cricket. Like they're not the same type of thing. The finances aren't the same. So what we need to do is we need to make it easier for more purpose-built rental, more affordable housing. We can do lots of things to help that. We can give them a separate path in terms of approval. We can speed up their approvals. We can give them more as-of-right building, like 6 stories along main streets or 8 stories along commercial properties, or more intensification around transit nodes. We can also lower their development charges. We can also give them land and say, like in Toronto, that this Housing Now project must guarantee 30% affordability. We'll give you the land, you give the affordability, and you guarantee it for 99 years. That's the deal that municipalities can do. We can take the land from the federal government and the provincial government and say, this is how we're going to build more housing. We can make it easier by removing the setbacks, excessive setbacks, or floor plate maximums, or angular planes that make it more expensive and more difficult to build. Lower parking minimums. I've got so many ideas in this plan that we've worked on to make sure that we've addressed every concern that people have in terms of how we're going to approve more building so that we can actually start building right away.
Car theft you talked about is one of the crimes, but there are so many different other kind of crimes that been just hiking on a daily basis. Do you have any plan for stopping?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to break new records this year in terms of car thefts and in terms of the number of break-ins. That's not acceptable, right? So while we've given in the last 2 budgets significantly more resources to the police, we also need to hold them accountable and say, now that we've given you the resources, you need to start doing and showing us that these numbers are going to go down, because we need to see real results. And that means the patrols. The patrols make a big difference, because before we gave them the additional resources, there were only 2 cars patrolling each city. 2 cars in Brampton, 2 cars in Mississauga. Every other car that was out there was responding specifically to complaints, which is good, We want them to respond to complaints. But that means there's no sort of visual deterrent. You didn't see the police in your neighborhood, right? So when you don't see them, you don't think about them, and you think, oh, maybe I can get away with it because I haven't seen a cop here in a long time. So now that we're going to have more of them on the street sort of patrolling, you're going to see more, I think, a reduced criminal activity. There's a lot of good task force that the region of Peel, that Peel Police, I should say, is implementing. And that's good. They are a leader in policing in Canada, and I would say North America, and maybe even around the world. The chief of police likes to say around the galaxy, to try and be the most progressive, innovative, and forward-thinking police force around. And that means acknowledging that not every problem is a police solution. So bring mental health workers to mental health calls so that you don't get the friction that you often see between police and people suffering mental illness. When they talk specifically about, guns and gangs, they've done a lot of good work in the last little bit working with other jurisdictions, and we've been leading the way.
Guns and gangs, of course, yes. You got to do something about it.
Yeah.
This is getting out of hand.
Yeah, I mean, they have a task force on it, and it's some of it's cross, jurisdictional boundaries. Gangs don't care about whether or not you live in Mississauga, Brampton, or Etobicoke, or Scarborough for that matter.
Don't you think that we are concentrating more on these things, and the ordinary person? You just keep on putting more and more cameras on the street for red light cameras.
Brampton has 4 times the amount of
we are already
cameras than Mississauga does
for ends meet. And $300 here and $300 there makes a lot of difference.
Of course, but we're talking about. We were just talking about the symptoms, right? This is the outcome of people who don't have enough resources, right? So we need to focus on solving the problem that is leading more people to go to gangs, to commit crimes, right? That is unaffordability, and that is housing. Those two things, if you're sheltered and you have food and you can afford to live a life, it's less likely that you're going to commit crimes, right? This is the idea of universal basic income. This is the idea of support for everyone in society, right? That when you meet their basic needs, they can be functioning members of society, productive members of society. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make life more affordable. That means freezing property taxes for the next 2 years. Make life more affordable for the people of Mississauga for the next 2 years who've been struggling more than they've ever struggled before. People are using food banks. And I don't just mean poor people. Middle-income people, families, for the first time, are using food banks. Every single month since the pandemic started, the food bank usage just has gone up, and the income that they earn at home has gone up as well. Because we always ask them, "What's your income? What's your family income?" We're not. It's not a test, but we need to know so that we understand people's needs. The average person in Mississauga makes $54,000 a year. That's the average salary. The average rent for a 1-bedroom apartment is $2,200. I've done the math. That means there's only $1,000 left for everything else per month. $1,000 for food, total, for transportation, for clothing, for going out. Anything you want to do in life, you have $1,000 left. That's not acceptable. The city is so unaffordable that people are going to food banks. Some of them end up committing crimes. This is not acceptable. We need to help solve this with the housing crisis. We need to solve the housing crisis and the affordability crisis.
Very good thing what you said, but you said that the rent is gone up, and I have a question. This is not that rent is gone out for no reason, and some money is going in someone's pocket. It's pandemic and after effects of pandemic, and then the prices of everything is gone up. The mortgage rates are gone up. So there are very many people, they cannot, even with this rent, they cannot pay off their mortgages. They are paying extra from their own pockets. So once you said, and you recently in the beginning you said that there are more small businesses, there are fortune companies as well. Once you talk about all this, how can you subsidize everything? Like you can freeze taxes,
Lower taxes for small
lower
businesses.
taxes for
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense to me that I think this is just showing a green grass on the other side, that we can lower these things, whereas the interest rates are gone up.
Yeah.
And people, the owner of these apartments and the houses, they have to pay that much money towards the mortgages. What is the solution to resolve the root cause of all this problem?
So, in terms of the mortgage rates, obviously the city can't control that. That's a federal. It's not even federal. It's the Bank of Canada, right? It's the global economy. There's only so many things that we can control. What we can control is the budget of the city of Mississauga, and how we approve housing, how we get more supply, and the tax rates that we do. You asked a legitimate question, though. The source of it, I believe that's the source of it, and that's the biggest challenge that we have. But what can we do about it, and then how do we pay for it, right? So, yes, it sounds good when I say, I'm going to lower your taxes for small businesses. I'm going to lower them for low-income seniors. I'm going to freeze them for everybody else. How do we pay for that while continuing to invest in transit, continuing to invest in infrastructure? How do we make the math work? Well, I'll tell you, because we've done it. We've done the math a lot. We've worked with people in the provincial government, people who worked in municipalities, John Tory's former budget director, Joe Hornick, who's a city councilor who used to work for banks, and we figured it out. It's not rocket scientist. I've got it on my website as well. You can look at all the math. So when we freeze taxes, all our plans, right, everything that we've promised, adds up to about $100 million, more or less, in terms of expenses. How are we going to pay for that? Well, first of all, we're going to use 20% of our reserve. Not all of it. So the city of Brampton used almost 100% of the reserve to freeze taxes for 4 years. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about using 1/5, just 20%. Where am I going to find more money from that? Vacant homes tax. Vacant homes tax would generate over $20 million. So that gives us a bit more.
It was never before. So Toronto had it, but so this means
it is a
new thing. What you're thinking?
A new thing. What I'm doing is a vacant homes tax.
Great,
right? And I'm going to do it a better way, because Toronto did it in such a way that actually hurt people because they were afraid. It was an opt out, right? Versus Vancouver, we already have the data. We know whether or not you live in your home because we have access to your utilities. We can see this house used no water, no electricity, and had all these other infractions because they didn't cut the grass. We know whether or not you live there or not. We don't have to burden seniors on making sure that they file reports every year to make sure that they don't end up paying $30,000 worth of tax. So that's one thing that we're going to fix as well. But that'll generate tens of millions of dollars, and we've already started working towards that. Another thing, as we continue to grow, we need to build more housing, and then we expand the tax base. This is what Hazel did. Hazel did this for decades. She knew that the more homes she built, that the city built, that the lower taxes we could have, because you would spread out all the needs across a larger base of people. Now, what does that also do for us? That helps us hit our housing targets. The provincial government and the federal government have both set housing targets for us. Bonuses, exactly. $32 million last year, we missed our target. We needed to hit at least 80%. We hit 40%, 39 actually, so it was even worse. So we didn't hit our housing target. We lost $32 million from the provincial government. Federally, I got $113 million for expanding more housing options. This is the fourplex motion, building around transit corridors. That equates to $28 million a year, which we would lose if we don't continue to show progress on building more housing. And that's not included in the budget already because we don't know if we're going to do that. If we build the housing that we need, we get that, and then we get all the money that we're looking for. So we've costed out completely. We're not cutting services, and we are able to continue to grow the city and pay for the tax cuts that we're talking about.
There you go.
Thank you. We will definitely invite you again. My last question to you is, at the Bloor Street, when I was passing through, it says, do not limit it or reduce it to one lane. I spoke to another candidate, and the person said it is not that it's in the hands of and you are a member of the council, you are a councillor. What made council to do and pass this, that Bloor Street reduced to one lane? It is a main street. What can you do for that?
So it was 4 lanes. It's currently 4 lanes, and the recommendation was to go to 3 lanes. Right? So I voted for it. I'm supportive of the project. And the thing to understand about the project is that it's an integrated road project. What that means is that the road was scheduled to be repaved and demolished anyway, because we have a 30-year life cycle of every street in the city. So that means we were redoing the curbs, we're redoing the boulevard, we're going to redo the sidewalk, we're going to redo the road, we're going to do the infrastructure underneath, and we're going to renew the whole road. So when we say it was $27 million, we don't mean it was $27 million to put in bike lanes. That's not what we're talking about. It's $27 million to redo the whole road along the entire stretch. When the city and the councillor had the opportunity to look at that resurfacing, they said, what else could we do to make this better? Right? So they went out with consultations. This isn't in my area. There's a different councillor. This is her area. They did consultations with staff, and they did consultations, I think 6 or 7 meetings with residents to say, we want to make this road better for transit, better for cyclists, better for pedestrians, and yes, it might have some effect on the cars, but we think it's actually going to be better for it at the end of the day, because people will take other roads to get around, and they'll choose alternatives. Now, believe it or don't believe it, but some people understand that there's
that doesn't make sense,
some research around
the way community and number of people is increasing, rather than putting a burden on another road and reducing this street to one, so you're putting pressure on another road.
So the challenge is that we're talking about a single road in isolation, and I think that's the biggest problem that we're having, is that 1, the cycling master plan is over 30 years. 2, improving transit always takes decades, and we look at individual projects instead of looking at the whole system, right? What Mississauga needs is a refreshed look around how people travel around the community. We almost all drive. There's a study going on right now in Meadowvale. You can drive through it and they'll show you all the numbers, where 89% of all the trips that are being taken are by car. And that's probably...
And you are reducing one lane.
And that's more or less true around the entire city, right? Is that it's around 80 to 85% of the trips. 80 to 89% of the trips are done by car. In order for us to make any progress in the future with all the additional growth that we're happening, with all the people that are moving to the city, we need to have more options, right? So that means we need a safe, separated bike network. That means we need more transit options, that's rapid transit across the city of Mississauga. We need a grid. We essentially need a road network, but for bikes or for people who are walking or on wheels or taking transit, right? When you layer those on top of each other, then you give real options to people to get around. Bloor Street is a piece of it, a very small piece of it, right? And we follow the recommendations of staff, as well as the local councillor, who we trust understands and knows their community better than anyone else, and it's part of a larger system.
Thank you very much. It is just like, it's my opinion, it is just like there are so many north-south roads starting from Oshawa till North York, and Mississauga till 427. When the matter came for 413, Liberals said that this is environmental hazard. Come on, this is something which is going to help residents of the area to have one road which goes north and south. And the way more people are coming in the area, we need wider roads. And I think more people waiting in the lanes, that has more emission in the environment, and that is more hazardous. Anyways, any message for the people?
Get out and vote. Last election, only 21.8% of people voted. 21.8. That's just over 1 in 5. That's crazy. I like to tell people that municipal politics is the most important level of government. And the reason I say that is because if the federal government stopped working tomorrow, how long would it take you to notice? Would you notice until you needed a passport or you needed a check from the federal government? How often do you deal with that? But municipal government, you pick up the phone, call 911, you need someone to answer that. You need someone to pick up your garbage. You need your traffic lights to work, right? You need to get to the park and spend time with your kids.
I think one of the reason is that the federal and provincial government, they see more times on the radio and television, and this is what people see. The councillors and all they don't come on the radios and televisions very often.
No, I'll come anytime. I'm happy to
Thank
come
you very
anytime. Thank you for covering the election, and
Appreciate it.
just want everyone to go out and vote.
God bless you. Thank you very much. It's a great message. I request everybody on June the 10th. And the pre-poll has started. Would you mind to share dates?
No, it's
It was last weekend.
Last-
Yeah. Advanced polls were last weekend.
Closed. So
It's
now
closed,
the final date is thus June. So come out and vote. लास्ट टाइम 21.8% वोट जो था कुछ भी नहीं था, जैसा भी उन्होंने कहा कि 1 out of the 5 people voted. Come out and vote. It's our duty. It is our duty. So we'll try to make you meet with everybody. Do not waste your vote. Look at everybody's credentials and come out to vote. Thank you, Alvin.
Thank you so much
God
for having
bless
me.
you.
Thank
Take
you.
care for you.
Thank you.